Right now, while McLaren celebrates winning championships in Formula One, they're also in a London courtroom fighting over $20 million with a driver who never even raced for them. And the story behind this lawsuit? It's absolutely wild. Alex Palou is one of the best drivers in IndyCar racing. He's won 4 championships and even won the famous Indianapolis 500 race. But 3 years ago, he signed a deal with McLaren that promised him a chance to race in Formula One. Then everything fell apart. And now McLaren wants him to pay over $20 million for breaking that contract. Palou admits he broke the contract. He's not arguing about that. What he is arguing about is whether he should pay anything at all. Because according to Palou, McLaren lied to him from the very beginning. Let's go back to 2021. Palou had just won his first IndyCar championship with a team called Chip Ganassi Racing. He was on top of the world, and that's when McLaren came calling. Now, Palou didn't want to race in IndyCar for McLaren. He only wanted one thing: Formula One, the biggest racing series in the world. According to Palou, he told his management team to make that clear to McLaren. He would only be interested if there was a real chance to get into F1. McLaren offered him a deal: race for our IndyCar team starting in 2024, but also you'll get to test our F1 cars. You'll work in our F1 simulator. You'll be our reserve driver. And who knows, maybe you'll get a race seat in Formula One. Palou says McLaren CEO Zak Brown told him during their conversations that he really wanted to bring an IndyCar driver into F1. Brown told him they could make it happen and would give him all the preparation he needed. At the time, Palou thought Brown was being genuine. So Palou signed the contract in 2022. And here's the crazy part. To do this, he had to break his contract with Chip Ganassi Racing. This already gave him a reputation as someone who didn't honor contracts. But the promise of Formula One was too tempting. Then came August 2, 2022. Fernando Alonso announced he was leaving Alpine to join Aston Martin. Alpine immediately said their young driver Oscar Piastri would replace him. But just hours later, Piastri sent out a tweet that shocked everyone. He said he never signed with Alpine and would not be driving for them. It turned out Piastri had secretly signed with McLaren back in June. He was going to replace Daniel Ricciardo for the 2023 season. And Palou found out about this the same way everyone else did, on Twitter. Palou was upset, really upset. He had signed with McLaren thinking he had a chance at an F1 seat. Now they had just signed another young driver instead. According to Palou, this changed everything. But here's where it gets interesting. Palou claims he asked Zak Brown about the Piastri signing, and Brown allegedly told him something surprising. He said signing Piastri wasn't even his decision. He blamed it on the team manager Andreas Seidel. Brown also told Palou that his performance would be compared to Piastri's. If Piastri struggled in 2023, the seat could go to Palou in 2024. From Brown's point of view, Palou's chance at F1 wasn't affected by Oscar. Now this sounds a bit strange. McLaren CEO Zak Brown is obviously involved in every major driver decision. Brown has since called these claims ridiculous. He says it's crazy to suggest he didn't want Piastri or wasn't part of signing him. So what was McLaren's real plan? Well, court documents show they had 3 scenarios. Plan A was Piastri as their race driver. Plan B was using Palou as a backup if Piastri or Lando Norris got sick or injured. Plan C was replacing Piastri with Palou if Piastri performed really badly in 2023. But McLaren never put any of this in writing. They never promised Palou a race seat. According to Brown, he told Palou what the opportunities would be in F1, but he never told him he was guaranteed anything. Brown says there was just some possibility to join F1, nothing more. Meanwhile, Palou did start doing F1 work for McLaren. He spent days at their factory. He tested their old F1 cars. He worked in their simulator. He even drove in a practice session at the United States Grand Prix in Austin. McLaren says if Palou had continued this program, he would have gotten more chances to prove himself. More testing, more simulator work, more opportunities to show he deserved an F1 seat. But Palou argues McLaren got just as much benefit from his work as he did. He gave them valuable feedback on their car. He helped improve their simulator. And here's something really interesting that came out in court. After Palou left, McLaren sold an F1 practice session to a Japanese driver named Ryo Hirakawa for $3.5 million. So Palou's lawyers argue McLaren actually made money from his departure. They got all the work they needed from him, then turned around and sold similar opportunities to other drivers for millions. Then Palou discovered something else that made him angry. He was going to be McLaren's lowest-paid IndyCar driver, even though he was a champion. The other drivers, Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi, were getting better deals, and they hadn't won championships. In May 2023, Zak Brown met with Palou personally. Brown openly told him what the other drivers were earning. Palou was surprised and upset. He was supposed to be paid the least, and he wasn't getting a real shot at F1 either. McLaren did offer him more money after this, but Palou says the offer was filled with bonuses that made it look good on paper. The actual base salary was about half of what Chip Ganassi Racing was offering him. Plus, he felt McLaren was including things like legal fees and testing costs in his pay package. By summer 2023, Palou was looking for a way out. He contacted Helmut Marko at Red Bull. Marko seemed interested in talking about a possible F1 seat. He asked Palou what it would cost to get released from the McLaren contract. Palou had someone on his team ask Brown about this, but then, according to Palou, Brown went directly to Marko himself, and suddenly Marko wasn't interested anymore. McLaren sees this differently. They say Brown was actually trying to help Palou. He talked to both Red Bull and Williams about possibilities for Palou. McLaren argued they went above and beyond to help him find an F1 seat elsewhere. When Palou asked what it would cost to be released from his McLaren contract, the number was several $1 million. This would cover what McLaren spent on him, plus what they would lose from sponsors like NTT and General Motors. In August 2023, Palou made his choice. He told McLaren he would not be racing for them in IndyCar. Instead, he was staying with Chip Ganassi Racing. And he didn't even tell Zak Brown directly. McLaren found out through Palou's representatives. Brown was furious. He said Palou basically threw a grenade into the room and left Brown to deal with all the angry sponsors. Palou's reasoning was simple. He had to choose between Chip Ganassi, who had never lied to him, and McLaren, who he felt had done the opposite. So now McLaren is suing for over $20 million. Here's what they say they lost. $7 million from having to renegotiate their deal with sponsor NTT, almost $7 million more in other lost sponsorships, over $1 million in extra salaries they had to pay other drivers, and $400,000 in bonuses they had already given Palou. McLaren also had to scramble to find replacement drivers. They tried to sign Marcus Ericsson, but he had already agreed to join another team. They ended up going through several drivers before settling on their current lineup. Brown says Palou's actions caused major financial and reputation damage to McLaren, and because Palou didn't even give them a heads up, they couldn't properly manage the situation with their sponsors. But Palou argues he shouldn't pay anything. Yes, he broke the contract, but he says the contract was based on lies and false impressions. McLaren used F1 as a trick to get him to sign for their IndyCar team. They never really planned to give him a proper chance at Formula One. Palou even points to Fernando Alonso as an example. Alonso is a two-time F1 champion, one of the best drivers ever. But when Alonso tried racing an IndyCar with McLaren, he struggled. In 2019, he couldn't even qualify for the Indianapolis 500. Yet when he raced with a different team, he almost won. Palou's point is that even Palou couldn't have saved McLaren's IndyCar program. The team just wasn't good enough. So McLaren didn't really lose much by him leaving. Meanwhile, Palou has won 4 championships and the Indy 500 with Chip Ganassi Racing. The case also revealed something shocking. Text messages showed that McLaren employees were told to use disappearing messages on WhatsApp. One manager said this was to cover their ass on lawsuits. There's even a message from Zak Brown from August 2023 saying to keep everything in WhatsApp and then delete it. Palou's lawyers say this proves Brown destroyed evidence, Brown strongly denies this. The trial started in October and will continue into November. A final decision might not come until early 2026. Both sides have given their testimony. The courtroom has seen heated exchanges, with Brown and Palou's lawyers arguing intensely. What makes this case fascinating is that it pulls back the curtain on how Formula One really works. We learned that teams sell practice sessions for millions of dollars. We learned about the promises made and broken in driver negotiations. We saw text messages about deleting evidence. And at the center of it all is the simple question: did Zak Brown promise Alex Palou a real shot at Formula One, or was it just a maybe that Palou misunderstood? $20 million hangs on that answer. If you enjoyed this analysis, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.